Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening, downloading, and subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I'm 12 Kyle. Check this out. On this podcast, what I want to talk about is the current generation of hip hoppers. I think it goes without saying, but I've said this before on many occasions that I'm a hip hop fan first and foremost, right? And I'm tenured in hip hop. I've been around a while, right? Been around the block. So I've seen a lot come and I've seen a lot go and I've seen a lot of stuff happen. And normally I don't talk about current things that happen on this podcast just because it's just really not in my wheelhouse and not my steez, not really how I kick it. But, you know, I leave that to other podcasts, and some of which I thoroughly enjoy. But I couldn't, based on like the things that I saw over this past week, I couldn't let that get past me and not talk about it. So I figured I'd get on here and, just, if you will, impart some wisdom to those who may be younger than me that are listening. If you've been, following the news or what have you, obviously, this past week, the rapper Mac Miller passed away. I believe he was 26 years old. And to say that it's unfortunate that he passed away from all indications, or early indications, it was a drug overdose. So, that's sad in and of itself. A young man lost his life. And it's always interesting to me when people die. People want to, some people want to get on their moral high horse and say, well, he shouldn't have been on drugs or whatever the case may be. So my thing is this: he's no longer here to defend himself. I'll be honest with you. And I tweeted this out. I probably know maybe 5 Mac Miller songs. And from what I could tell in the 5 songs that I heard, dude could rap. He seemed to be extremely respected by his peers, which in hip hop goes a long way. But I think the thing that really kind of took me by surprise was seeing the outpouring of love and affection and appreciation for his music from those who are the generation or generations younger than me who are hip hop fans. I'm on Twitter, right? And I have quite a few people that follow me on Twitter and I follow who are younger than me, and they are huge hip hop fans. Some of which are fans of the golden era. Others are fans of this era. And quite often we talk a lot about hip hop on Twitter. But I really didn't have much to say, about Mac Miller's passing other than rest in peace, so forth and so on. And again, I wasn't a fan of his music. I thought he could rap, but he wasn't somebody that I was checking for, just like most artists of his caliber. I have my artists of this era that I listen to. He wasn't one of them. But I think the thing that stood out to me is just seeing and reading some of the tweets that were coming out from people that I follow on Twitter. And I was really amazed at how much his music had affected these people. And, you don't really think about it, but everybody has, certain artists, and they have certain feelings about different artists. And maybe there was a tape, maybe there was a CD, maybe there was an album or an 8-track that, kind of introduced them to music. And for whatever reason, I saw a lot of people tweeting and talking about the fact that how inspirational his music was, how much he meant to them. And sitting in the seat that I sit in, being tenured in hip hop, I could definitely appreciate it. And it was also, quite humbling to see people being sad about it. Like they really, his passing really affected them, negatively, and rightfully so. But I guess the best way I can describe it, sitting where I sit, being older, not necessarily being a fan, I saw people my age tweeting and posting about, well, who was Mac Miller? They honestly didn't know. And here it is, this guy, he had a huge, and I knew that he had a huge following, but I didn't realize the impact. And I think sometimes, we don't automatically see the impact until it's not there. And, that was special to see. And so I guess to those of you listening who are younger, of the younger generation, the best advice that I can give you, take it for what it's worth, is to enjoy your artists, celebrate your artists, and celebrate them while they're here. I've talked, on previous podcasts about and written about, like, I remember when Fife from A Tribe Called Quest passed a few years ago. Man, that was tough for me because, like, I literally grew up with Fife's music. The first album came out, I think, when I was in high school. And so I automatically identified with A Tribe Called Quest, automatically identified with Fife. And he was was Fife like the top, the top 5 MC? No, he wasn't the top 5 MC in my opinion, but he was a guy that I identified with, and I loved his music, and I love Tribe's music, and still do to this day, and still bump their music on a consistent basis. And to see him pass away, that was like, it was really eerie to me, and I can go back even further to the deaths of Tupac and Biggie. It rocked hip hop, and I don't know that hip hop has ever really fully recovered from it, because I don't know that you necessarily replace artists like that. You can say what you want about Tupac. If he were here, oh man, it would be a time. If Tupac were alive in 2018, it would really be a time. Same for Biggie. Biggie was a very charismatic guy, a supreme lyricist. Tupac was an extremely talented rapper, conscious. Can you imagine what Tupac would be saying about the person that holds the office of the White House? It would be crazy. But I said that to say this. I think in my generation of hip hoppers, we loved those artists, but we didn't really celebrate them. We didn't celebrate them the way that we should have. And I guess my advice to you all, especially those who are younger that are listening, celebrate your artists. When you get a chance to go see them in concert, go see them in concert. Don't necessarily buy into the beef stuff, if you will, and more on that in a second. But celebrate your artists, support them. It was really, really weird for me to see the outpouring of support and love for Mac Miller, and I couldn't help but question if some of these celebrities and artists that work with him, let him know in the weeks and months, before he passed, how they felt. And I'm not here to, to talk down about them, because none of us know when it's going to be over for us. None of us know when our time here on this earth is due. We all have a date. Nobody knows when that date is. So, but it felt good to see that outpouring of love. And like I said, the only advice I could give, you all is to appreciate those that that you support, as far as their music and things of that nature, the ones that you love. Support their music, support their art, and let them know. Even if you want to send a tweet to your favorite artist and good and damn well they're not going to read it, hell, you never know. More often than not, people read their tweets. They read their messages. They read their Instagram posts, or they read the feedback from it, I should say. So you just never know. But at least, you let them know that you're thinking about them. And I mean, when they're gone, they're gone. Some artists, are here today, gone tomorrow. I've seen a lot. I think because I have kids, I know more about other artists that are out there than the average person my age. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I listen to it. No, I don't know the difference between, I wouldn't know Lil Pump if he walked in this room and had a Lil Pump t-shirt on. But, I understand that he's out there. And, one thing I will say in conclusion, as far as talking about Mac Miller, is that, no matter, and I tell people of my generation this all the time, no matter what you might think about that particular artist, everybody has a place at hip hop's table. Some people don't have a long place there. I mean, they're not at the table for long, but everybody has a place. And I think one of the things that I see is, at least from the younger generation, people are constantly competing for fans. They're competing for likes. They're competing for retweets. It ain't about that. It should just be about the music. I mean, that's what drew you to artists like Mac Miller in the first place. It was the music and how you related to him. It wasn't about how many followers he had on Instagram or anything like that. So, again, appreciate your artists. Appreciate them, love them, tell them, and support them, while they're here. I feel, it was good to see the outpouring of love, but I also kind of felt a little bad for those who were fans because, I didn't realize he had such an impact. I know, like, when I first heard the news, maybe about 20 minutes afterwards, I got a text from my son, Dion, who's in college. And he said, man, this is sad, Dad. He's like, I loved his music. I had no idea that Dion even listened to Mac Miller. But he did. And so, again, nobody knows how long we all have here. Appreciate and celebrate those artists. That's what hip hoppers do. Now, the other issue that I saw from this past week, Cardi B and Nicki Minaj. If you haven't been following, and I'll be honest, I've been very loosely following this. Cardi B and Nicki Minaj have been, in a constant quote unquote competition for the top spot, probably since, Cardi B's been on the scene for the past, at the time of this recording, last 2 or 3 years, I guess. 2 years, for the better part of 2 years. And Nicki Minaj has held the crown as the queen of hip hop, if you will, probably for the better part of, the past, 5 to 10 years, I guess. And so this past week, the two got into somewhat of a kerfuffle at a fashion show. Now, according to the video that I saw, and I don't even know why I sat and watched that video for 3 minutes, but the video I saw, they exchanged words, or at least Cardi exchanged words with Nicki. She had to be restrained. She threw a shoe at Nicki, which is so old school, to take your shoe off and throw it at somebody. But that's another story for another day. And yeah, so that's what it was. And Nicki didn't respond, and Cardi took to I guess it was her Instagram, and she wrote this long diatribe about the fact that Nicki had been sneak dissing her, and she tried to uphold her. And you can find it on there, and I'm not going to quote it verbatim. But the gist of it is that for some reason, for this younger hip hop generation, it appears that they think that two people can't be on top, or two women can't be on top at the same time. And I was telling some of my buddies this. I said, we were having a discussion, and I said, like, it's weird to me because it sounds like, and again, I will be full disclosure, I'm not a fan of Nicki Minaj or Cardi B's. I think I understand why they're popular, but neither of them make music for me. Let's just say that. And with that being said, I respect the hustle. I respect Nicki's hustle. I respect, Cardi's hustle. Can they rap, in my opinion? No. Or at least not to my liking. But it's a whole bunch of people out here that can't rap, according to me. Another story for another day. Here's the thing. What's sad to me about Nicki and Cardi is that they've fallen into the notion that two women, first of all, these two women have allowed industry outsiders and people outside of their camps and whomever to pit themselves against each other. Let's just say that let's say she's LeBron. I don't know. She's the LeBron of women rappers. And here comes this new upstart, Cardi B, who is, tearing up the charts and the whole nine. There's room for two women to coexist in hip hop at the top of the charts, or at the top of hip hop, if that's where you want to put them. Personally, I think Rhapsody's better than both of them, and we can wrap circles around them, but that's another story for another day. Right? So that's the frustrating part, at least from the outside looking in as a hip hopper. I think you can't fall into that trap of, that the two can't be at the top together. Really and truly, they should be collabing with each other. They should be doing songs together. Hell, they can do an album together. It doesn't matter to me. But there's no radio station. There's no, podcast, or there's no place that Cardi nor Nicki could go and they not be interviewed, and they be interviewed and not be asked about one or the other. So if Nicki goes on the Breakfast Club, they're going to ask about Cardi B. If Cardi B goes on Sway in the Morning, they're going to ask about Nicki Minaj. And the two can coexist. And it's unfortunate that they have pitted these two black women against each other. Little history note. MC Lyte and Queen Latifah, they were out at the same time. Foxy Brown and Lil' Kim, they were out at the same time. Now, they had their issues, but they were out at the same time. And I don't think, hip hop fans need to necessarily choose between one or the other. But to you young hip hoppers, that's not what it's about. You can like one, or you can like the other, or you can like both. I think you probably should like both for different reasons. Again, they're not my cup of tea, but hey, it's possible. Don't fall into the notion of, well, I'm Team Nicki or I'm Team Cardi. It shouldn't be about that. It should really just be about the art. Now, if one makes music better than the other, in your opinion, and that's who you want to, flock towards, that's fine. But honestly, the fact that it's been, from what I've read, just a bunch of confusion, a bunch of he say, she say, a bunch of subliminal disses, which are always cool in hip hop. And I get it. It's a competitive sport. Hip hop is the king of the hill. But Jay-Z is not going to go into any interview and somebody just ask him, do they think that he and Drake could compete with each other? Or can he compete with Kendrick Lamar? Or can he compete with Rakim? Nobody's asking Jay-Z that. But in this society, that's what we do with women. And it's unfortunate because you're pitting two women against each other who, from what I can tell, don't really have anything against each other. Now, Cardi alleges that Nicki said some disparaging things about her child or her being a mother, what have you, like that. But outside of that, that's something that can be squashed. When it gets to the point where you're, having to be separated from security, Cardi, I think, got hit by security inadvertently. So she had a knot on her head and she ended up throwing what looks to be like a very expensive shoe at Nicki. Come on, man. The last time I checked, Cardi B and Nicki Minaj were adults. If you're an adult, let's act like it. The last thing that I would want to see is something like Tupac and Biggie. And no, I don't think it's going to get to that. And be clear. Can you have beef in hip hop and it be good for hip hop? Of course. It's a competitive sport. It's the king on the hill. Hip hop was built on being competitive and destroying your opponent. But at the same time, don't lose your dignity. More importantly, don't lose the culture. Both of these women won't be able to rap until they're 55, right? I'm sure that they're going to want to parlay their rap careers into maybe acting, modeling, whatever the case may be, other streams of entrepreneurship. Because hip hop is a young person's sport. So even the elders, nobody raps forever. I mean, you look at someone like Jay-Z. Yeah, he's still rapping, but Jay-Z's rapping just because he ain't got shit else to do. He doesn't have to rap. He's into so many other things. And most artists never reach that level. And some don't want to be honest. So while this stuff is going back and forth and they are, upset with each other, the world is watching. And when the world is watching, one thing hip hop has to do is make sure that they're putting on a good example. And the younger hip hoppers who are listening to this podcast, this ain't what it is. That's not what it's about, and that's not what it's gonna be. Let's be a little bit more grown, if you will. Don't support the BS. And again, I would like to see these two women get past whatever differences they had and move forward. Because at the end of the day, it ain't that serious. It's not. It's not. And before you know it, it'll all be over. And when it's all said and done and your careers are done, what will be your legacy? Throwing a shoe? Having 10 number one albums? Think about that for a second. And then more importantly, for you young hip hop generation, what is it that you're getting out of that? Cardi going at Nicki, Nicki going at Cardi. What are you getting out of it? And again, I'm not going to stand here and say that we didn't enjoy Jay going at Nas. I'm not going to say we didn't go enjoy LL going at Kool Moe Dee. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But at some point, you got to get a little grown. And hip hop, because of the nature of the business, you never know when it ends for you. You just gotta grow up. I'm pretty sure that the people that love and adore, friends, family, and fans of Mac Miller would love to hear another track from him. Now, unfortunately, he's not going to get that chance. Take advantage of the opportunity that you have now. Don't waste it. That's going to do it for me. Thank you for checking out the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I'm your boy 12 Kyle. We'll catch you guys next time. 5 G's.